Hi and welcome back to another process video from me. This is day 8 of Scrap Squad's 12 days of summer scrap lifts. This is a layout by Beads, Buttons and Birds, and it's all strips of paper down the left hand side. So here you'll see me trimming down my photo. I've decided that I'm going to use the Heidi Swapp Sun Chaser papers that I used the other day in a different layout, and I've just got bits left. A few of them are cut to 6x6, so I wanted my photo to be smaller than 6x6 so I could use those to map the photo on. So I just trimmed a few bits off the edge and it hasn't really affected the integrity of the photo at all, so that's great. Using basil white cardstock with texture on, and here I am cutting down my mats. So I decided to mat onto this first of all, but then actually decided I'd be better using white cardstock to map the photo on just to make it pop a little bit more. So I think when I've done that one, yes, I decided to go in with the white cardstock. So it wasn't really a choice of too many papers for me because I think I only took 3 from this range so far. So it was just a case of looking at those. They're double-sided, so I had a choice in that respect. So just checking that I'm happy with the size of the white mat. And then there you see choosing which side of that paper to use. And I cut it the same width of the black one, but left it slightly longer this time, because I want to have wonky mats a little bit like the original had. And as you see, just using the original photo to get an idea of the size of each of the mats. They're all ever so slightly different, but more or less the same. So now I'm just gluing the photo down to the white mat. And then I decided on balance that I wanted to distress the edges, so you'll see that. And as you can see on the left hand side, I've chosen some bits and pieces from my old stash. I've got some Endless Summer pieces from Cocoa Vanilla a few years ago, so those colours match quite well, so I pulled out from those. Bungalow Lane Puffy embellishments from Paige Evans, and some of JD 3D Print stars, along with some flair from Hey Little Magpie, and also Dotty About Flair. There's a title from Bramble Fox, which I picked up when I went to Dotty About Flair's first crop the other week. Morag was there with the shop, so it was great to see her, and I picked up a few bits to add to my ever-growing stash, so it's nice to be able to use that. So here I am with my Tim Holtz edge distresser, just roughing up the edges. I'll go through each of the papers. So sometimes find it a bit tricky to get into the corners, but you get there in the end. Just keep applying the paper, and it doesn't matter if it gets creased while you're holding it. All adds to the texture, and it gets flattened down when you glue it all together anyway. So just checking that I'm happy with the position, dusting off all of the paper dust that you get when you're distressing. And then I go in with my double-sided tape and stick it all down. I just do it layer by layer. You can see there me using a bit of scrap card to map my photos. Don't waste anything here. I do love that blue dotty paper. I think I'm going to have to treat myself to another piece of that. Like I say, this is all from the Heidi Swapp Sun Chaser collection, and it really is a gorgeous collection. And these are the colours of the moment. They seem to be in so many ranges. They match the Spectrum sherbet from 49er Market, for example. So there, that's the mat all done. So now I need to start constructing the strips on the left hand side. So I want to use a mixture of papers and washi tape. So I start by cutting the paper strips. I'm not too worried about the lengths at this stage because I don't really know how long I want to do them. It's just making sure that I've got different widths of paper, and then I add some, what do you call them, fish tails at the end. I'm not sure. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So just going through, like I say, all the little scraps that I've got. I love this wordy one. It really pops with all the other sort of pastel colours really in this collection. Although they're bright, they're more pastel brights. And then I'm going through some labels from the free label printout that we've got on Hey Little Magpie. I have a pot of these cut up because they're just brilliant for layouts. I love them for adding dates or a little bit of journaling. So just going through and choosing some colours that I like. The circles, I love circles. I always try to get them on my layouts. And especially with using Flair, they just match really well. This is what I mean. So, and this is a trick that I learned, I think, watching somebody else's YouTube, I forget who now, a few years ago, where if you want to cut these fishtails in, you just cut a slot down the middle and then you can trim on each side. I know some people fold them over to get the middle, but doing that cut means that you're not having to crease your paper, which is really handy. So you cut down the middle and then join the corners to the middle, that cut. Just thought it was a really clever way of doing it. And just cutting different angles on the papers, working out roughly where I want to put them. And this is where I'm realising that all of my strips were way too long because I've used a bigger photo than Laura used in her original. So once I'm happy that I've got enough paper strips, I'll start going in with other things. Just checking that the sizes. And then I go in with washi again. I've just gone through my washi tape collection and chosen some. This one was a bit fiddly because it's quite old and they kind of dry up and glue together, but I managed to get it going. So although this blue isn't in the papers, I wanted to try and bring some of the blues in from the photo, which are a slightly different tone of blue. I never worry too much about matching my photo up to the papers, but I'll bring in some colours if I think that it needs it. And because these strips are quite dominant on the layout, I felt that it did need some of the colours bringing in, so that's why I've gone for that blue. And then it's just a case of constructing, so a couple of pieces of washi tape and then just keep checking the placement, looking at roughly where the photo will go. And you'll see as I go through, some things I'm putting on double-sided tape and some things I'm putting on foam tape to raise them up, and some I'm distressing as well to match the photo and some leaving. So this one I realised it was very white against the white background. I just did a tiny bit of distressing with my fingernails. Sometimes that's all you need. More old washi. I've got a tub of it, I'm sure we all have. And it was great going through it. I think you could probably recreate this layout with all washi. It would be fabulous, and then add a few embellishments at the end. So here, like I said, I'm just using my edge distressor on some things. And that I quickly realised is just too blocky and plain, so a bit more distressing. I just do the long edges first and then realise that short ones need doing too. Let's see. I think after I've stuck this piece down, it's when I realise that I want to have a bit of height and dimension. So the label goes on some foam. Yeah. Good old foam roll from Sticks 2 again. It is fabulous. So it's very repetitive, but it's quite therapeutic and relaxing doing this, because you're just mindlessly almost choosing papers and deciding whether they need texture or not and positioning them on your page, knowing that you're going to come back in with other things anyway, so it's fun. Isn't it funny that it's those white papers that I've decided I don't need to use the edge distressor, I'll just use my nail on. I don't know why I did that. Maybe I just decided I didn't want them really roughed up. Here's some more foam tape again to add the dimension. Because I've done it on that label, I thought I can't just have a label, nothing else on foam. I do love the added interest that adding dimension gives to a page. And it's not too much dimension, it doesn't take too much room in your album doing that. More washi. Like I say, just picking up the colours either in the picture, like a flesh tone, and also in, I think that's the pink that's in the papers. Although I'm not sure if it's in any of the papers that I've actually used on this layout. And filling in some gaps. I do love this dotty. I'm not sure where I got this from, I've had it years, but it's beautiful. Struggled to get that onto the label. A nice long piece along the bottom just to anchor it all together. I folded that over the edge at the bottom. And this is when I start to add embellishments. So now I've got those strips down, I want to add other different textures to the strips, much as Laura did on hers. Circles for the win. Goes great with the flare badge. I was thinking of mounting the flare on the edge, but because I put that circle on foam, it just didn't quite work. And then just a few bits from the Endless Summer. This little arrow first of all, excuse me, and then decide that it needs something else on it, so I think I add a heart shortly. This is a good distraction technique when you're not quite sure where to go next. I thought, well, I'll definitely mount my photo on foam, so I did that while I just had a little thinking time. And then it's deciding where it goes. And I decided eventually more towards the bottom was better. Now I wanted to use this home title because it was home time from our lovely holiday on the tiny island of Herm in the Channel Islands. We go there every year. We've missed it the last couple of years, so we're looking forward to going again in August. So I had the title Home from Bramble Fox and just wanted to add time with these tiny Making Memories letters that I've had for eons. They must be 12, 15 years old. But I added those to the label and then realised that there was loads of white space after the word time. So then it was a case of looking for something that I was comfortable filling that up with. I tried a few bits and pieces but ended up with this arrow, which I was really happy with. And it just takes it slightly off the edge of the label, which is nice. And then trying to work out where to put that home. Wasn't happy with it on the dots, it didn't stand out enough. And in the end decided that that was definitely the best place, right next to the label. Nuvo crystal adhesive, Nuvo drops adhesive. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. It's Nuvo adhesive anyway. It's just a liquid PVA, but it's brilliant. It's a very fine nib and sticks things really well. Again, more bits from that Endless Summer ephemera pack. I tend to keep things with their collection until I've used up most of the collection, and then it goes in a pot in my drawer. And these are the bits that were left over from Endless Summer, so I went through my drawer to add ephemera and embellishments, because I haven't had any from the Sun Chaser range yet, so it was just matching up what I had. Sometimes it's quite satisfying to use what you've got rather than constantly digging into new things. So that star flare that I've put on there is actually from the Storyteller flare, I believe, that we created to go with the Cocoa Vanilla Storyteller, but it matches, so I've used it on this. It might have been actually from Spectrum Sherbet, because I know those colours, like I say, those colours are very, very similar, so it could have been from the Spectrum Sherbet ones. So date stamp on one of the labels, and this worked really well because it's mounted onto foam, so the date stamp worked really nicely. And once again, I wasn't happy with the white space at the end of the label, so I just found a little piece of ephemera to add on there. It says chill out, because this is the children sitting on the jetty waiting for the Trident, which is the boat that takes you to Guernsey, because there's no airport on Herm, so you have to go over to Guernsey to get the plane home. And here I'm using one of James's anchors from the JD 3D print range. I just thought it went really well, because we used to anchor our boat here when we were little. We used to sail to Herm from the south coast. So tying it to a piece of twine, I think it's linen thread, and then sticking it straight over onto the back. I tried to do it too quickly, and when I pulled the thread, I pulled the anchor off. So just left it dangling to dry a bit before I tried sticking the thread over the back of the layout. Adding more embellishments, another flare, again from Hey Little Magpie, one of the circle labels from Hey Little Magpie, the printables, and then some of the JD 3D print stars. I don't think he's actually launched these yet, they will be coming soon. He's been manically printing all the colours that we have so that we can start matching them to the collections we've got in the shop. So there are those Bungalow Lane puffy stickers. Just adding a few bits there. And then I decided to tackle this thread. Once again, forgetting I hadn't stuck the photo down. And the heart fell off, couldn't remember where it was. So just found somewhere else to put it. I think it was up by that star flare, now I look. But it looks fine where I put it. And then, although Laura's original layout didn't have anything behind the photo on the right hand side, I knew I had this Bramble Fox stencil which I bought at that crop, and because it's a sunny day and they're sitting by the water, I thought it would just be perfect to do a little sun starburst. So I'm using the Oxide Antique Linen, which is just a very subtle yellow. I really like that colour. And doing a little sunburst behind the photo. Did I say starburst before I meant sunburst? Just not quite happy. I wanted to spread it out a little bit further, so just matching it up again. Don't need to add any more ink. These daubers, the ink stays on forever, so you can just keep blending and adding. It's nice the way it fades. I'm much happier with that. And this is where I decided that it needed more texture, so grabbed my sewing machine. Not something I would normally do, but when I've used adhesive, and I did stitch through some of the washi as well, but living dangerously. So just single lines on some things and back and two on others. But the problem with stitching, once you start, you think, I'll just add a bit more there, just add a bit more there. Before you know it, your layer's covered in stitching. But I am really pleased with the end result. It did add something to it. Also anchored down that thread that the anchor was on quite nicely. If I'd done this before embellishing, it would have been much easier. So some places I had to just stop and go back again. And you can see I do sort of a wavy line in some parts where I'm doing more than one line. Again, it's all just adding texture. Just a little bit more interest, so the closer you look, the more you see, you know. And then this one, I was very brave. I went through a piece that I'd already mounted on foam, but it went through like a dream. It was perfect. Sometimes you just have to try these things, and you can always cover it up, work out what to do if it doesn't work out. All part of the learning process. That's what I keep telling my kids. You don't learn if you don't try. So I'm just deciding here what to do next. And then I decided I do want splatters. So I grabbed my gold paint. It's Securitaki paint. I think I got it from Amazon or somewhere. And just add some water to activate it, covered my photo, and just did a few spots on the page. Not too many over the papers, just a few bits. I do love a bit of gold. And then decide on a few more JD 3D print stars. I love these just to add a bit of something to a layout. Again, adding it with that Nouveau Deluxe adhesive, that's what it's called. It's funny how names sometimes escape you, isn't it? So finally gluing the photo down. And then I do some journaling off camera because I just wanted to double check the spelling of some of the names. That's Rosette Steps in hand, but I couldn't quite remember how they spelt it, so I wanted to double check. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I'd love to hear from you if you have any feedback. Thank you.